Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Monday, October 28th. It is the day after another brutal New York Jets loss as they fell to the 1-6, now 2-6 New England Patriots, 25-22 on the road up in Foxborough. Today, we're going to take another look at the state of this pathetic franchise here on episode 414 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. We've done 414 of these things, and I appreciate all the support. And I'll be honest, less than half of them are probably actually talking about wins and talking about success. Maybe 10% of the episodes that we've done are talking about success, not even. Man, oh man, this team every single week, every single year finds new ways to lose, find new ways to make you disappointed as a fan, make you just lose all hope as a fan. I can't tell you a time that I've been this beaten down from this team. They've broken me. They've just I'm numb to it at this point. It's so bad. It's so pathetic. And once again, you find yourself as a Jet fan, and the Jets as an organization find themselves staring into an abyss with no clear end in sight to all of this losing in this 14th year in a row, where they'll be sitting home in January and February, not playing in the playoffs, which is just beyond pathetic. And yet they continue to raise season ticket prices and screw the fans because all Woody Johnson cares about is money in his pockets and nothing else. And that's sad, but that's where we are here. That's the sad state of affairs that is this crappy franchise. As always, though, before we begin, let me tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. You've got Game 3 of the World Series tonight. You've got a sports equinox today. You've got all four of the major sports going on tonight, so looking forward to it. Basketball, hockey, you've got Monday Night Football, and you've got Game 3, Yankees, Dodgers. Yankees need to win tonight to get this series back on track. If you want to get in on any of the betting action tonight or any night, check out BetUS plus my viewers. Use my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first three deposits up to $2,000. Once again, that is a 125% sign-up bonus, first three deposits up to $2,000. Check out BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. Also, our friends over at SeatGeek. I don't think anybody will be there on Monday or on Thursday night, but if you are a Houston Texans fan that wants to go to the game on Thursday night, there are plenty of tickets available at a very cheap cost. And if it's your first time using SeatGeek, you'll get an extra $20 off. So tickets right now are like $50. You use my code there, you can get them for $30. And they're pretty good seats because nobody's going to be there on Thursday night. That place is going to be empty as it should be. No reason to show up and watch this team on person. It's bad enough watching them on TV, let alone spending money to watch this team crap the bed every week. Use promo code Bubs on Sports, though, for $20 off. You know the deal. Look for the green dots. Those are the good deals. And it's not just Jets. It's not just football. You guys know the deal. Any event, plays, concerts, shows. You need a ticket for an event and haven't used SeatGeek before, use my promo code Bubs on Sports for $20 off your first purchase. And also our friends over at Huga House. You want either of the special edition Aaron Rodgers 20th season hats or any of the other awesome hats that Huga House offers, use my promo code Bubs for 15% off any purchase and get yourself some Huga House swag. Just a couple days ago, they released some new arrivals. So if you want to check those out, definitely go do so. Promo code Bubs off for 15% off at checkout off of any purchase at Huga House. So here we are. It's another Monday. It's another Monday coming off of a brutal defeat and another season where it's over before Halloween. We haven't even handed out Halloween candy. We haven't even gotten dressed up in our Halloween outfits. Halloween hasn't even taken place. We haven't even hit November. And the New York Jets season is already over in what was supposed to be an all-in year where they would fight for a division title. They would get to the playoffs, hopefully make a deep playoff run, and get to the big game. I don't even feel like mentioning that game's name because I feel like mentioning the game that happens in February every year on a New York Jets podcast just isn't right. So you know what I'm talking about. But here we are, 2-6, all these expectations, And the New York Jets are a dumpster fire. They are pathetic. And yesterday was another example of this team finding a new way to lose. I mean, it's just so sad. And just yesterday in general, right? We've talked about this team finding new ways to lose every week, and good teams finding ways to win, bad teams finding ways to lose, Jets being a bad team, all that stuff. But yesterday was legitimately like a historically new way that the New York Jets found a way to lose. A stat that has been all over Twitter. I'm sure many of you have seen it, but for those of you who haven't, or if you have, it does need to be repeated. That's how bad it is. But the Jets yesterday scored 20 plus points, committed 0 turnovers, and held their opponent to under 250 yards of offense. From 1940 until yesterday, teams were 756-0 when they hit those three metrics. Again, that is 20 plus points, 0 turnovers, and your opponent under 250 yards. Since 1940, 756-0. What do the New York Jets do? Well, they jet. And they go out there and find a way to lose while hitting all three of those metrics. So now teams are 756-1 since 1940, and the only team to lose is your crappy New York Jets. I mean, if that doesn't tell you how this team finds a new way to lose every week, that's exactly it. They have found a way to lose that a team hasn't done since 1940. A team has never done in 756 times of this three metrics hitting, of these three things happening. A team has never lost, and the Jets found a way to be the first ones to do it. I mean, that is so sad, so pathetic, so painful, so frustrating. It's just where this team stands. And I'll be honest, there's been a lot of talk over the last, 24 hours, really last week as well, as to where this Jets team stands among most painful seasons. Like this season, the 2024 season stands among most painful seasons in New York Jets franchise history. And I've said it yesterday, in my lifetime, this to me has got to be the most painful. And I think most Jets fans would agree. I think most Jets fans, you can make a strong case. You can make the case that this has been the most painful. This has been the biggest disappointment of a season in franchise history, just because of the expectations going into this season were so high. The fact that they are 2-6 and sinking is a disaster. Believe me, there's been some bad years with this organization. They've been the laughingstock of the NFL for many, many, many years. But when you go into this season and the expectations that were put on this team and the talent that is on this roster, to be 2-6 has got to be one of the biggest disappointments, not one of, probably the biggest disappointment in franchise history. I mean, you look at some of the most painful seasons, right? 95, 96, 1996 specifically, that was a disaster. Those were the co-tight years, right? You go 3-13, then the 1-15 season was the biggest disaster of them all. That was a train wreck. 1999 I know was bad. Again, I wasn't around for these seasons, but Testaverde goes down. 98, they go to the AFC title game. You come out in 1999, you think to yourself, Testaverde's back. Most talent returned. Parcells back. Like, that was their year. That was their chance. Got to the title game, lost to the Broncos, lost to Elway. Now they come back 99. This was their year, our time to take over. Testaverde goes down first game of the season. Jets fall to 8-8. Obviously missed the playoffs. That was definitely painful. Expectations, Testaverde going down, felt a lot like last year with Rodgers going down 4 snaps in. That was painful. 2011, the way it ended was painful. Right, you're 8-5. You win 3 straight games. You get blown out in Philly. Then the Victor Cruz 100-yard touchdown was or 99-yard touchdown, rather, was a disaster on Christmas Eve. You lose that game, then you lose in Miami the next week. You drop 3 straight to end the season, fall to 8-8. You miss the playoffs. That was awful. Obviously, a season that was in my lifetime. Witnessed that season. That was a train wreck to fall the final 3 games. It really feels like, if we're being honest, the 8-5, you lose in Philly, the Victor Cruz 99-yard touchdown. It feels like since that moment, this organization hasn't been the same. It just feels like that, unfortunately. It feels like ever since that touchdown, things have been completely disastrous ever since. 2016, of course, was bad. Right, you have the Fitzpatrick holdout. You coming off the 10-6 season, which collapsed in Buffalo in the final week of the year to miss the playoffs. 2016 was pretty close to this year in terms of like the just an unlikable team, a team that you like it's hard to root for. Just a toxic locker room, a losing locker room. Fitzpatrick had the holdout, right? That was a mess. 2016 was bad. And then you have the Gaze year, which is probably the most recent example of like a really just painful season that was a complete and utter disaster. But then again, and that's why I always say it with all these seasons, right? 2024 still to me is the worst because of the expectations. We went into this year with expectations of winning 11 to 12 games. We went into this year with all this talent on the roster. Aaron Rodgers coming back. Here it is. This is our Jets. This is our moment. And it's just done before Halloween. Like the Gaze year in 2020, right? That was a mess. But I predicted them that year to go 7-9. Most Jets fans that year predicted them 5-7, or 5-7 wins, 6 wins, 7 wins, maybe 8. That was about it because the year prior with Gaze, they were 1-7, found a way to go 6-2 down the stretch, which included getting blown out by Baltimore on primetime and had that terrible loss against Cincy that year. So even in that 8-game stretch where they went 6-2, had 2 brutal losses mixed in there. The Jets said, you know what? We went 6-2. Let's bring Gaze back. We all knew that was a mistake. He should have been gone after year 1. You went into 2020. I don't think anybody expected it to be as bad as it was, but nobody had expectations of winning the division, going to the playoffs. Nobody had expectations of finishing over 500 that year. We all expected the team to be at best a 7-8 win team. And they were 2-14. Last year was painful too with Rodgers going down. But this year, like Rodgers is healthy. And what makes this year so painful, what makes this year just breaking so many Jets fans, even the most positive Jet fans out there, what makes it so painful is like there's no more excuses. Like the Jets are out of answer. They're out of answers. Like they're out of everything. They can't do anything anymore. Like this, they just stink. This was the Jets' last chance. The only button, the only lever that Joe Douglas, Woody Johnson, and this team could have pulled during the 2023 offseason was to go all in Aaron Rodgers. We've tried the offensive mind with the young quarterback. Darnold, Gaze, that blew up. We tried, Zach, that blew up. We've tried drafting the young quarterback. That has never worked. It probably still won't work, even though they'll do it probably here in 2025, and we'll all have to buy ourselves into a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders or somebody like that. Get ready, Jets fans. We're already talking quarterbacks here on October 28th, but that's just the state of affairs that we are in. That's where we are in. The Jets thrive in the offseason, right? That's what we do. This is our offseason. The regular season starts in January for the New York Jets, when we get to talk about who we should hire as a coach, who we should hire as the next GM, free agency, draft. That's the real regular season for this team. We all know this, right? We've tried everything. And here we are. You had to go all in. You couldn't go after a Derek Carr. Jacoby Brissett, no, you couldn't do that. You couldn't. Jimmy Garoppolo was not going to happen. Like Rodgers was your only guy. Your only guy. Your only option. Look how Derek Carr's working in New Orleans. It would have been bad either way. Derek Carr's either hurt or he stinks. Rodgers is just cooked. He's washed. So they went to the Rodgers move. They go all in. You go even more all in the offseason. You go even more all in when you traded for Davante Adams, which is completely meaningless at this point. All they did was lost draft picks. Davante Adams is doing nothing to help this team win right now. I mean, he's really not. Even if he went out there in that 100-yard game yesterday, this team still wasn't winning. And we all said that. Most people said that. I said that when they traded for Davante. They had too many issues. Davante Adams can't fix them all. Sure, he adds more talent, but that's the furthest thing from the problem with the Jets right now. They've got so many other problems. And here we are, Davante Adams is a Jet, and they're 0-2 since that move. They're 0-3 since the Saleh firing. So it's just a mess. But and that's why you're so hopeless now. You're so hopeless because you've tried all in. You've tried the young quarterback. You've tried, the CEO, culture guy coaching like Robert Saleh. You've done all this stuff. You've acquired all this talent. You had the 2022 draft, all this time, all in. This was our year, 2024, and it's blown up. And here you are again, staring into the abyss of needing a head coach, needing a general manager, entering another rebuild, needing a new quarterback. I mean, so many problems. The list goes on and on. And that's why, to me, this is the biggest disappointment. And that perfectly kind of segues into my next topic here, where I'll kind of break this down one by one. And that's Woody Johnson. Like, you have no faith in Woody Johnson hiring the next general manager. You have no faith in Woody Johnson hiring, hiring like the next head coach. Maybe he hires the GM and probably not, but like, you have no faith in him hiring a GM and then letting hiring the right GM, hiring the right coach. No faith in him. You have zero faith that he will do that. Zero faith. And now, let's be honest, Woody's meddling right now. Woody's got full control. There is not a single person in the Jets front office right now that is doing anything. Joe Douglas right now is a puppet. Honestly, the Jets should just do right by Douglas. They should just fire him now. Like, let him fire him now like they did to Saleh, and let him go find a team to be a part-time, like Saleh's an offensive consultant, I think is the official label they've put on him. That's his official job title in Green Bay. Let Joe Douglas be like in a consultant to, I don't know, some playoff team out there, and let him go try and find his next job. Like, honestly, do a favor to Douglas and fire him now, because he's not going to be here in the offseason. So fire him now and get him a 2-3 month head start on where his next destination is going to be, because he's not doing anything right now. There is not a single person in this front office that is actually doing anything. Woody Johnson is doing everything. And it started with the Robert Saleh firing. Douglas didn't even know about it. Woody didn't even talk to Douglas about it. That was 100% his decision. Hassan Reddick, that was 0% of that was Douglas. That was all Woody Johnson, panic move. And Davante Adams, same thing. It's Woody Johnson saying, we're a disaster. We need to go all in. We still are all in. We need to find a way. Go and trade for Davante Adams. Try and get this fan base to buy back in. Because let's be honest, that's all Woody cares about is money. Trade for Davante. In Woody's mind, ideally, they beat Pittsburgh. Ideally, they beat New England. Then you get, fans in the seats for Houston. You get people to buy back in, buy tickets, buy merchandise, all this nonsense. And it's flopped miserably. But that's what Woody's doing right now. And let's be honest, who has faith that Woody's not going to do that when the next GM that comes in here, who even has faith that Woody's just going to control everything still? It's such a train wreck. And Woody's not going to sell the team. It's not going to happen. He won't. As much as we can call for him to sell the team, the only thing that I think would ever get Woody to sell the team is if legitimately he's making money every single year. He's making tons. Like, as long as money's in his pocket, he's going to stay here until fans actually stop renewing season tickets, which I know a lot of season ticket holders that I know have not renewed their season tickets. There won't be anybody in that building against Houston, and down the stretch here, their next couple home games as well. I think they've got 4 left, I think, including Houston. I think they've got maybe 3 after Houston, maybe 1 more. It doesn't matter. However many games they've got left at home, nobody's going to be there. That's the only point where you actually eventually see change. It's once Woody realizes he's not getting the money in his pockets. And until then, it's going to be the same garbage, because that's all he cares about. It's all about the money. But he's not going to sell the team. You can even say, the Mets got lucky with the Wilpons. The reason the Wilpons sold was they actually had financial issues. They couldn't own the franchise. They legitimately got into financial problems. Woody Johnson has no financial problems. Woody Johnson's perfectly fine. So that's the reason why the Mets got lucky. And Steve Cohen, obviously with as deep as pockets as anybody, now owns the team. And obviously they've turned things around. But you got to hope with Woody, and this has been a common example, but you have to hope with Woody that he kind of pulls a James Dolan in a way. And Dolan's not a good owner, but he finally hit on the right people. Thibodeau, Leon Rose finally hit on the right people to make the right basketball decisions. You just got to cross your fingers and pray to the football gods that the GM and the head coach that this inept owner brings in, you just got to hope they are the right people. Because if they are, then that's great. But unfortunately, you have no faith in Woody doing that, because he hasn't done it in 25 years. So here we are. But that's my point. That's where I'm at with Woody. Like, he's not any good. We all know he's not good. He tries and it always fails. And he's not going to sell the team. Believe me, if I heard today that Woody sold the team, I'd be happy as anybody. We'd all be happy. We'd all be thrilled. We'd all love for Woody to sell the team, but it's not going to happen. So we're just wasting time and energy asking for him to sell the team when it's not going to happen. As for where Joe Douglas stands, I know there's still a small portion of the fan base that maybe says bring him back. I know there still is a small portion, maybe 5 to 10%. I think this year definitely has taken its toll on just blowing the whole thing up. And you have to blow the whole thing up. Even if you believe that, like, even if, like, you want to look at Douglas and say, the 2022 draft, that's all great. Look, he hired Robert Saleh. So he got the coaching wrong. The coaching staff's not any good. We see Ulbrich here is, I'm not going to sit here and say Robert Saleh was 100% the reason the Jets defense was that good. I think a lot of the reason the Jets defense is taking a hit is because Ulbrich just can't handle both, being a head coach and a defensive coordinator. I think he's a very good DC. I don't think he's a good head coach. I think it's the same thing with Saleh. Very good DC, not a good head coach. But you can make a strong case that, like, ever since Saleh left, the defense has been trash. So maybe Saleh did have a lot more say in the defense than we thought, even though Ulbrich did end up calling the plays. Game planning perspective, probably had a lot more than maybe some of us expected. Either way, like, you wonder even if Ulbrich, how good of a defensive, like, coordinator he really even is. Either way, my point I'm trying to make is Joe Douglas, as much as you want to talk about the 2022 draft class, all that stuff, free agency's been a mess. He hired Robert Saleh, who hired terrible assistant coach. The coaching staff's a train wreck. That all goes back to the top with Douglas because it's a trickle-down effect. He's the one that hired Saleh. Saleh's the one that hired his assistants, and that's been nothing but a mess. And Saleh's not even here anymore. So he has to go. He's 29-62. He's 29-62. At the end of the day, this is a results-driven business. He's been here for 6 years. You want to count out 2019 because he got hired in 2019 after the Jets botched that whole thing and fired McCagnon after he spent all that money in free agency and drafted. They botched that. Then they fired him and said, here, Douglas, take it over. You want to, all right, fine. 2019 doesn't count still. His record's still not any good. His record still is trash. You take 2019 away, and his record is 22-53. That's not any better. It's not any better. So technically, starting in 2020, he's gone 2-14, 4-13, 7-10, 7-10, 2-6. Jets probably find a way to finish 6-11 this year. They'll find a way to win meaningless games at the end of the season because they don't know how to properly tank. They always will. They will find a way to mess up their draft position like they always do. And that'll be the difference between us getting like a 3rd or 4th overall pick and instead sitting at 9 or 10, where we can't get a top 3 quarterback, where we can't get one of those top guys. That they'll find a way. They'll find a way to win like 6-7 games this year because that's what the Jets will do. When they play meaningful games in December, they can't win them. But when they play meaningless football in December, they find a way to win them. So that's the Jets' way. We all know that'll happen. But 29-62, that's a 31% winning percentage. It's a results-driven business. This guy hasn't even hit 30 wins, and it's October 28th, 2024. This guy stood up at the podium at one Jets drive in 2019, and he's had 29 wins since that point. 29 wins. I mean, that's hard to wrap your head around. That's hard to do. Like, the law of averages, at some point, you got to start to win, and they just don't do it. As I say, the definition of being a Jet fan, the definition of the Jets as a whole is insanity. It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That's the Jets organization summed up in one quote right there. That's what it is. It's the same garbage every single year, and they expect a different result. And we all were fooled. We all thought this year was different. And here we are. It's the same exact thing. It's the same old Jets. And you want to talk about the 2022 draft class with Douglas? That's great. We could talk about that. But guess what? This is the reality of the 2022 draft class. Out of the top 5 teams, out of the teams that picked top 5 that year, the Jaguars at number 1, the Lions at number 2, the Texans at 3, Jets obviously 4, taking Sauce, Giants at number 5. 4 of those 5 teams have made the playoffs since that draft. The only team that hasn't, you betcha, it's the New York Jets. The Jaguars in 2022 got to the divisional round. Not only have these teams made the playoffs since 2022, they've all won playoff games. Jaguars beat the Chargers. I know, Brandon Staley is an idiot. They blew that game. Still, they won a playoff game. They got to the divisional round. Giants went into Minnesota, won a road game with Daniel Jones. Kind of a fluke of a year, but they won a playoff game. They got to the playoffs. And then last year, the Lions go to the title game, and the Texans in year 1 with Stroud beat the Browns in the wild card, get to the divisional round, of course, lose to Baltimore, but got to the playoffs. All these teams, 4 of the 5 teams have not only made the playoffs since 2022, but they've all won playoff games. And the way it's shaping out here in 2024, as much as the Giants and the Jaguars have found themselves in bad spots again, the Lions and the Texans arguably is your Super Bowl preview. There's a good chance that the Lions and Texans both find themselves in the Super Bowl. And that's another example of rebuilds not taking forever. Rebuilds are not supposed to last 6 seasons. Rebuilds are not supposed to last 14 years. Rebuilds for competent organizations should be 2 to 3 years at the max. You turn it around and you start to win games. Look at the Lions. The Lions are a prime example of what a rebuild should look like, and the Texans as well. But the Lions are a prime example, right? You hired Dan Campbell. 2021 was really bad. It was kind of laying the groundwork. They went 3-13-1. It was poor. 2022, they went 9-8. They got better. It was a lot improvement. Then in year 3, that's where they took off. They get to the title game, and now here we go. This season, they went 12-5 last year. This year, they're in for, they might win 13 games this year. They're 6-1 right now. They look like the best team in the NFL. They just put up 52 yesterday. That's how rebuilds are. So that's another thing with Douglas, too. Douglas is in his 6th year, and the team hasn't made the playoffs. Or well-run organizations, rebuilds don't last 14 years. Rebuilds shouldn't last 6 seasons. Rebuilds should last 2 years of maybe 1 bad year, 2nd year's better, year 3 you take off. Not year 1's bad, year 2's bad, year 3 bad, year 4 bad, year 5 bad, year 6 bad. I mean, that's not what it's supposed to be, but it is. So, and look, you want to talk about the 2022 draft? Well, we could talk about the 2022 draft, but what about Zach Wilson? What about Mekhi Becton? What about Denzel Mims? Those are the first two. Just think about that for a second. The first 2 draft picks Joe Douglas made as a general manager were Mekhi Becton and Denzel Mims. Are we serious right now? Those were the first 2 picks. Neither obviously are on the team. Denzel Mims right now signed with the St. Louis Battlehawks of the XFL or whatever, the UFL. He's not even in the league anymore, and Mekhi Becton's not even playing tackle. He's playing guard now for the Eagles. That's how those 2 picks panned out. Heck, you want to even talk about AVT? Like, his big highlights have been 2022, AVT, but AVT can't stay healthy. Uncle Carter, okay, that was a good pick. Got a 2nd contract. That's about it. It's been a disaster. 2022, that was it. And 1 or 2 other guys. And his free agents bust, don't even talk about that. Don't even get started on that. DJ Reed's really the only solid free agent he's ever brought in. I mean, just look at this year's free agent class for the Jets. Kinlaw's a mess. Mike Williams isn't doing anything. Tyron Smith's been a train wreck. I mean, just look at this year's free agency class alone. So Douglas has got to go. And let's be honest here as well. You can't, nobody's going to want to come here in the first place as a head coach. But they're not going to want to come here, especially if they're coming here with a GM that's on the hot seat. A GM that's, no, that's not happening. Douglas is gone. He stinks. He hasn't, sure, there's been some good, not enough though. And he's 29-62. He's 29-62. He's 33 games under 500. That's inexcusable. So that's it. That's it. Douglas is gone. And again, and that's the whole problem too, as well, is, we want to talk about making trades this year. As tough as it might be, the Jets as an organization over the next week here, because next Tuesday, November 5th, is the trade deadline. The Jets over the next week here are going to have some tough, decisions to make on really starting to tear this thing down and trading guys that contracts are up at the end of this offseason, trying to get some value. Mike Williams could be a guy. I don't know how much value you're going to get for him. There will be teams out there that'll look for him. I mean, heck, maybe he goes back to the Chargers. They're in the hunt. They could use a receiver. Ladd McConkey's their leading receiver right now. Boom, he pairs right back up with Justin Herbert 1 year after, not even, just a little over a year after leaving him. He played, right? So he played with them last year. He'd step right in there and automatically be the best receiver on that team. So there will be teams that'll look for Mike Williams. I would be on board with, at this point, trading Mike Williams. It doesn't even matter if at this point, the whole you're one injury away from having Gibson as your third receiver. It doesn't matter anymore because the Jets season's done. Gibson and Irv Charles could be their 1 and 2 receivers this Thursday. I couldn't care less. The season's over. You could throw whoever the heck you want out there. They're not going to win any games anyway. Well, they will. They'll win them in December when they don't mean anything. But now they won't. Mike Williams, do you deal him? DJ Reed's a guy that I don't think the Jets probably won't bring him back. He's going to want a lot of money. He's going to want number one corner money. I don't see the Jets probably giving that to him. At the beginning of the year, I said I didn't see the Jets giving that to him. I think you had a decision between him and Michael Carter. They gave it to Michael Carter. At the beginning of the year, we did think they would give all the money to Sauce, and they're probably not going to now because Sauce is terrible this season. So maybe that changes, but you could probably get a lot for DJ Reed. Look, I'm not saying you have to trade these guys, but the Jets do have to start thinking about getting a head start. Heck, even Lecky Fotu, trading away these guys for something. All these guys that are on expiring contracts, most of them aren't going to come back next year, especially the veterans like Mike Williams. He was here for a season to go all in. He's not going to be back next year when this team's going to be geared up to win 3 games. He's not going to be. They're going to tear this thing down. And might as well get value for him now. But that's the problem, is who's going to be making those trades? What is Woody Johnson's going to be negotiating the trades? Because Douglas is going to be negotiating trades then for draft picks that he's not even going to be here to make. So why would he have any urgency to even make those trades, get those trades done if he's trading for draft picks that he's not going to make? You have a general manager making decisions for you in 2025 when he's not even going to be here in 2025. He'd be lucky if he even makes it to 2025 with this Jets team and they don't fire him before then. That's why everything's backwards. That's why they are in such a terrible spot. And this is the type of season where you just wish you could press a button and get to January. And I can't believe we're here again, but we are. This is one of these seasons where we're talking about things that are going to happen in January and February, and we're talking about them in October. Like I said, we haven't even hit Halloween. We are still 3 days away from Halloween. And the season is cooked. Just sad. It's sad. Some other things I want to get to. Rodgers, he's done. He's washed. He's not coming back next year. The Jets do have to have a conversation though with Rodgers soon about what he plans to do beyond this season. They can't have him. What are they going to do? Is he going to retire? Are you going to move on from is he going to just want to leave? What are they going to do? I would not bring Rodgers back under any circumstance next season. He's washed. I cannot take another year of Rodgers. And the people out there that bring Rodgers back to draft a rookie so then he can sit behind him for you. No, Rodgers not going to want that. Rodgers not going to want to come here just to be here just so he could be a bridge quarterback. He's not going to want that. He's not going to want to do that. I think Rodgers, honestly, I think he'll retire after this year. I think he's kind of realizing with himself that he made a mistake and that he's not the same player. And to be honest, he'd only be doing more damage to his career if he left to go to another team and then failed there. Because then you're talking about failing here, failing elsewhere. Nobody's going to remember his days in Green Bay. We're all just going to remember the disaster that has been these last couple years of his career. So I don't bring Rodgers back under any circumstance. But you do need to figure out what he's going to do, because you can't have Rodgers pulling what he pulled in Green Bay, where he's can't make up his mind. He doesn't know if he wants to go, stay, retire, whatever. And then that affects who you hire as coach. That affects your GM search because he waits to make a decision in like March. Like, you can't have that. So they do need to get going on that soon here. But to me, under no circumstance, he can come back. That's it for him. If anything, your bridge quarterback, just roll with Tyrod. Like, if the Jets aren't bad enough to draft a quarterback this year and they're going to wait till the 2026 crop, just have Tyrod as your bridge, tank, win 4 games, and go draft the 2026. Go draft Arch Manning. Like, at that point. In terms of your next coach, this is tough right now. But like Mike Vrabel's out there. Vrabel's obviously would be the top of the list. He'd be like a culture guy, a guy that can come in, no nonsense, has a track record. He can come in, oversee everything. And, you know, he's a guy, along with a couple of these other guys, that you need to trust they can hire a good offensive coordinator, though, because you saw how things kind of fizzled out in Tennessee, where the offense was not up to the modern NFL game. And that was the big reason why he got fired there. He got the boot. So a couple of these guys, these old school coaches, they need to make sure that their offensive staffs are a lot better than the ones that the Jets have in place right now. But Vrabel's an option. I think Vrabel would probably be at the top of anyone's list. John Gruden's another one. The problem with John Gruden, he's suing the NFL. So I don't know if he would even be an option. Unless if Woody goes to Roger Goodell and says, like, hey, speed up the process. What's the deal here? Is he available? Is he not? Is he going to sue? What's going to happen with this? Like, whatever the case may be. But John Gruden's out there. He's suing the NFL. How much of an impact will that make? I don't know. Leave it to the Jets. They'll hire a coach that's suing the NFL. Rex Ryan's another one. I'll be honest. I was way anti like Rex Ryan train. I thought that ship has sailed. Even last year when there was some talks about firing Saleh, I was more on board with like bringing in a Harbaugh over bringing back Rex. For a while now, anytime somebody's brought up Rex, I've always said no. But I don't know. I've started to warm up more to the fact of bringing Rex back. Now, Rex would be another guy he would have to hit on his offensive coordinator. And you do have some questions. He's been out of the league since 2016, spent the 2 years in Buffalo. Didn't work out, was fired. He's been out of the league since 2016. That's 8 years. So how much, can he catch up to the modern game? Like, how much, I guess, rust would he have? Like, how would he do today in like the modern NFL? I know 2016 doesn't seem like a long time ago, but that's 8 years ago. And that's 8 years he's been out of coaching. So has he lost his touch a little bit? I don't know. There is possible. I mean, he's been on TV now forever. Would he come back and kind of be washed? Like, will be the same? I don't know. We'll see. But I have warmed up a little bit more to the fact of Rex Ryan, just because he's a culture guy and he cares and he does have pride of being a Jet. And a lot of the things he says now are a lot of things that you wish the current coaches of the Jets would say, but they don't. The one thing, Rex, I think you have to at least give Rex an interview. You have to. And he said today that if the Jets gave him a chance, he would 100% take it. So he'd definitely be open to coming back here. And I also think there is part of Rex that probably has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder to finish the job. He had the 2 years in 2009 and 2010, didn't work out. The way it ended, Idzik was a mess, the whole Tannenbaum stuff. The way it ended, I think there is a chip on his shoulder to come back and finish it. And he's mentioned many times that if they would have hung on to Tannenbaum, they would have eventually figured it out. So is there part of him that there is probably a chip on his shoulder to come back and finish the job, what he didn't, and take this franchise from probably the lowest point it's ever been and take him out of it? The one thing you're going to add to Rex is you're going to get energy. You're going to get a guy that's wants to be here, proud to be here. You're going to get a guy that's going to like hold players accountable. He's going to bring energy. We all know we're going to get a Rex. That's what made him, great for those couple of years. I don't know if it would work now if his day has passed him, but it wasn't great the 2 years in Buffalo. His final couple of years, not all his fault with the Jets, weren't great. Like, how much, what would he be? But it's certainly possible. I mean, look where the Jets are right now. They're rock bottom. It can't get any worse. It really can't. And then you obviously have Ben Johnson. These are just 4 names. You have Ben Johnson, and there will be others that will eventually come out. there will be guys that get fired at the end of this year that'll be options. You want to put, you want to even throw, Todd Monken in the list. I'm sure you could throw him on there. probably should be the OC right now. They didn't obviously hire him with Baltimore. He could be a name to look for. Ben Johnson, another one. He's a first-time coordinator. I know a lot of people don't want to hire a guy like that, but he is a young offensive-minded coach. If the Jets do decide to go rookie quarterback route this year, and they're bad enough to draft a quarterback top 5, do they pair him with a young offensive mind? We could try that. We could try that again, but there are some options. I lean more towards the culture guys, but they might go with the next hot coordinator. That's possible too. And look, like quarterback wise, like who do they go after? If they're not bad enough, you could, I guess, hypothetically, Tyrod's under contract 2 years. You go Tyrod Bridgier. You still have Jordan Travis. I'm not going to sit here and say that Jordan Travis is the answer, but he's here. If they win 7 games this year, they find a way to win meaningless games and tank their draft stock. Do you go Tyrod, Jordan Travis, like training camp battle, and then just ride it out there? And 2024 is just, or 2025 is just like kind of your version of 2017, where McCown was just a bridge quarterback, and then you go and draft a rookie in 26, 2 years from now. I wouldn't like that, but like this year, you're looking at Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders, Jalen Milroe. I don't like Carson Beck at all. Quinn Ewers, some concerns there recently with some of his play. Those are some of your options. You also have Drew Aller, Jackson Dart. I don't like Aller at all. I would stay away from him. I'm not in love with Jackson Dart, I would say probably either. I think your top, I like Cam Ward a lot. I also like Milroe. I know there's been some slip-ups. To me, I think Shadur is going to be, I don't know. I'm saying it right now, but it's so far away. I don't know. I feel like Shadur, with all this hype around him, his father, all this stuff, I don't know. I feel like he might fall on his face. And we've already seen Shadur show some softness in terms of like blaming his offensive line, lack of accountability. How would that translate to the NFL game? I mean, you can't imagine throwing Shadur in front of this offensive line right now. So it's tough. I like Cam Ward a lot, but I mean, they're going to have to be really bad. This team's going to have to probably win 3 to 4 games to get. Those teams going to have to finish with 3 to 4 wins. And that's not happening because the Jets don't know how to properly tank. They will find a way to like go 3-1 in December, have like 7 wins, 6 wins, get to like the 9th pick in the draft and fall out of taking one of the top 3 quarterbacks. That's what they'll do. And it'll set us back 4 more years because then we'll draft the bust and it's rinse and repeat. That's where we are. That's why we are here right now. So that'll do it. Just kind of an episode discussing more so the future of the team as opposed to just complaining about it now. More the future, taking a look ahead here in October, even though there's unfortunately 9 games left. Luckily this game's on Thursday. Like it's, we get it. Luckily we don't have to watch Sunday. Like luckily we can just enjoy Sunday football this week and not have to get our 1:00 window ruined. So, we get this game out of the way quick here. It happens Thursday night. It ends. And Friday morning, you move on. And then you enjoy your weekend. Because that's where we're at with this team. So, that'll do it. We will catch you guys later. Appreciate the support as always. It's been such a rough season. Content now is tough because it's a lot of the same thing. But I appreciate you guys tuning in so much. I really did not see this season coming. I thought this would be a game. I circled this game on the calendar as a game that I thought we could be talking about as potentially first place in the AFC, like a massive game, prime time. I would have thought for sure this could have been a game where we saw 2 6-2 teams fighting out. Instead, it's a 6-2 team. One team has held up their end of the stick. That's the Texans, and one team has not. So instead, we got a 6-2 team and a 2-6 team, and it's going to be the Jets on primetime getting blown out again for the entire NFL world, including Jets fans, to complain about while they are even on primetime. I would, right now, if I'm the NFL, I take that next game. They got the Arizona game, and then they got the Sunday night against the Colts before their bye. If I'm the NFL, I do it today. I flex that game. I flex that Colts game. Even if Flacco is playing and gives the Colts a spark, the Colts right now with Richardson, he's leaving games because he's tired. Like, they're a mess. The Jets are a mess. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody needs to see that. I would take it out. I would stop that. I would flex that game right now. I would flex every single primetime game that the New York Jets have left, which I believe it's this Thursday, and then it's that Colts game, and that's it. And then the Cardinals are at 4:00, and then their final 5 games after the bye are all 6. Their final 5 of their 6 games are after the bye are all at 1. Week 18 game has yet to be determined. That'll probably be a 1:00 game. Get the season over and call it a day. So anyway, that'll do it. We will talk to you guys later. As always, appreciate you all so much for tuning in. Make sure to please like and subscribe for those of you on YouTube, and talk to you soon.